Hello, Garland Nixon here, and I am, as you can probably tell, I'm on the road. I'm on the road again. Not exactly Patrick Lancaster on the front lines, although I did see a road rage driver. Does that count? I guess not. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and so let's talk about this business about a crumbling empire that's kind of pretty much declaring war on reality. One of the terms that has been used recently is, "Oh no, this might slide into a world war." Of course, Trump, when he was running as the peace candidate, so the peace candidate said, "And everybody, make sure my sound is good. Anybody, tell me if you have any problems with my sound. I will be looking in the chat." But at any rate, so the old peace candidate there, when he was running, said, "Look, Biden et al. Is I'm paraphrasing, could be, um, drag us into World War III. The issues of World War III. I'm concerned that we don't want to get into World War III, right?" And the discussion was the conventional view of World War III, right, where a bunch of countries all get together, they get their crap. That's not working real well. Sorry about that. Um, it's what happens when you're inside a vehicle and you're trying to do the best you can. Give me a second here. I'll get it all together. Moment, please. Yeah, that's rough. We're going to get it together. I'm telling you right now, if you give me a few minutes, I've actually got my doggone. Oh, maybe I'll try it this way. Okay, let's try this. Give me a second. This may we look. This may be. Oh, wait a minute. The best we can get. Let's cross our fingers and hope it stays. All right. So the old peace candidate, when he was talking about World War III, it was conventional, right? It was the thought of World War One, which was, and if you think about this I guess it's important to think about World War One, where there weren't as many, where they didn't have tanks, right? The tank was actually invented during World War One in Great Britain, and the reason it was called a tank was because the code name for the company where they made them was a water tank factory. They said they were making water tanks, and they were actually making this crude tank. They started off with these biplanes where they would fly over and literally drop like a brick out or a bomb, whatever, on the enemy. So what did they do? They lined up in trenches and faced each other, right? So that was the traditional warfare. They still were pulling cannons and stuff around and artillery around with horses. World War II, what do? You get an upgrade in the military hardware, so you still have armies facing each other, and more traditional warfare, right? But Trump talking about preventing World War II, what he was talking about preventing was the traditional view of World War, right? Which, may I add, always England, Germany, France. If you're going to have a world war, those three bastards are going to be right in the center of starting it every single time. So if you think about it, it wasn't really a world war, was it? It was England, Germany, and France up to their bull crap again. And right now, may I ask, we go outside the US and we look at who's stirring up all this trouble in Europe. Who's at the forefront of it? Starmer, Macron, and whether it's Merz or Schultz or whoever, it's always the same three countries. When you want a world war, if you're going to have a world war, those three countries are there. The ruling elite of those three countries are always going to be at the forefront of it. So one could argue that if you look at the rotten heart of the European ruling elite, that those are realistically, if the European ruling elite, for whatever reason, weren't around, probably wouldn't have a lot of trouble with the first two world wars. Sure as hell wouldn't happen, would they? But maybe they would have. I don't know, because the United States is a branch of that ruling elite. Is a branch off of the tree of the ruling elite of Europe. So they're a pain in the ass too. Anyway, let us continue. So while Trump said we don't want World War III and everything will be obliterated, right? As I said with Donald Trump, a lot of people have been saying that this more and more. Do not pay any attention to what he says. Pay attention to what he does, because he will tell you one thing, but his actions will produce a different outcome. And as I've been saying recently, if you people, his words are, people take his words to mean, okay, that's indicating his intentions. You know, they like people think that if I say I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, that's my intentions. And I say, when it comes to Trump and most politicians, look at the outcome. Look at their outcome. The intentions are the outcome, right? I don't care what they said they wanted to produce. Look at what they produced. That is the intentions. Think about a company with these gigantic machines, and you put pineapples in its machines and water and sugar and all of that, and labels that say Del Monte pineapple. And if you stand at the end of the line of that machine, what comes out is a a can of pineapples that says Del Monte pineapples, right? That's what that machine produces. That's what that whole factory produces. Based on the ingredients and the machinery, that's all you're going to get out of that factory is cans of Del Monte pineapples. That's what it produces. Somebody can say we intended to produce, I don't know, cans of chicken noodle soup, but that ain't what it does. It produces that. The outcome of that factory lets you know what you, if you knew nothing, if somebody said there's a factory over there, what does it produce? And you said, I don't know, let's go to the end of the assembly line. And you got to the end of the assembly line and you looked and you saw out popping, look at this, 10,000 cans of Del Monte pineapples an hour. I know what it produces. Why? Because I stood at the end and saw what came out. You could stand at the beginning and somebody could tell you anything in the world. Bags of popcorn. Sure. That ain't going to tell you anything. And you get to the end and you say, well, they were lying to me. The only thing that's coming out is Del Monte, right? That's the way you got to deal with politicians. Crap, I keep having the same problem over and over again, but we'll keep giving it a shot. That's the way you have to deal with politicians. And that is what comes out in the end. The outcome is the intention. Screw the verbiage that they use. Look at what they put out. And then what do we have now? Donald Trump came in with the peace candidate. Forget all that. Who cares about it? We have a country right now that is crumbling in every way, shape, or form, right? Let's start here. Right now, the United States, and I said this under Biden, but it has continued, if not deteriorated under Trump to some extent. I said, we've gotten, under Biden, I said, we got the worst relations with other countries that we've ever had. Under Biden, I said, we've got the worst relations with in the Middle East, throughout the Middle East, the worst relations with Russia, the worst relations with China, all that stuff that we've ever had, North Korea. Now, Trump comes back and he's arguing, he's trying to pretend, I'm trying to keep this thing going, but it seems like it just wants to keep sliding down, but we'll see what happens. He's trying to pretend that he wants good relations with Russia, but he really hasn't produced anything yet, but a lot of talk, number one. And number two, our relations with the Middle East just continue, Iran continue to deteriorate. Our relationships with China continuing to deteriorate, continually on the same track as before. So what is being produced by Donald Trump is similar to what was being produced by Joe Biden. He said something totally different, but let's not forget, when Joe Biden ran, he made a bunch of promises. And when he got in office, every single word out of his mouth when he was campaigning was a lie. And so far, I don't know what's going to happen with Trump. I'm not ready to predict anything. So far, we gotten the same ingredients from Donald Trump, the peace candidate, all these other things that he said he was going to do. Oh, we've got to stop we've got to do something about the deficit. Well, now they put in a bill that increases the deficit by $154 million. So I got to fire all of these employees, and people like me were saying, hey man, these are working class people. And what did I say? What are they going to do? Why fire them? Well, we got to save money, but you're going to increase the Pentagon budget by more than you save of firing these people. So why not just keep the people? If you're going to spend money, give it to the working class people. Why give more to the Pentagon budget? Now, what have they done? They're firing all these federal employees, and they're increasing the Pentagon budget by more than they saved, quote, saved, firing all of these working class employees. And all this talk about saving money, $154 million more than Biden spent. That's what Trump's doing. He is increasing the deficit. All this screaming about Biden's crazy, we're going to go broke. He's increasing the deficit. He can tell me what all he said. I'll judge him by the outcome. The intention was the outcome. Trump's intention right now, based on the outcome, was to do all the things that he's doing. And that's where we are. So what do we have? Let's start here. Politically speaking, we have two presidents in a row who have absolutely, based on where we are now with Donald Trump and based on 4 years, judging Trump 3 months in, we have two presidents who ran and everything they said to the people were a lie. Every single word out of their mouth so far was a lie, with few exceptions, few little things here and there. But for the most part, didn't Donald Trump say, and that's political, that is political instability. What are the people, if we should survive till 2028, what are the people to think, who are they to vote for? The people in America, when hopefully they've all figured out somebody's going to come out of nowhere. I guess maybe it'll be Gavin Newsom, or it'll be what's his name, JD Vance. And they're going to run and say some things. And everybody who's got a friggin' brain in their head will know that every word out of their mouth will be a lie. That they're going to say, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And they're going to come in and they're going to increase. If we aren't completely in a depression by then, what looks more and more likely, they're going to increase spending. They're going to screw over the working class, and they're just going to start more wars, and they're going to be Zionist puppets. That's what we get every 4 years. We get a bunch of lies, and then we get the same thing. So politically, this country is crumbling politically. We're getting to what happens in 4 years when everybody's told to go vote, and they're like, there's nothing to vote for. Whoever I vote for, I know what I get every time. Politically speaking, we don't have like somebody that the people like or trust or could. I don't care if you or if somebody in the chat ran and people and we said all the things that we want, and people were like, hey, Garland's running, that's great, I like everything he says, who trusts me? They'd be like, but so did Biden, and then so did the peace candidate. They all told me all these things, and they didn't keep any of their words. And if somebody said, should I trust you, Garland? I'd say no. You'd be crazy to trust anybody. You've been lied to. We have political instability. We don't have a democracy. Forget that. Is it a democracy if every 4 years, whoever wins, the other person says it was, the other party's going to say it was stolen, and half the time they are right, because you can't trust our citizens. Trust our voting system. Is it a democracy if everybody knows most of the time the person that gets the most money will win? Or look what happened with the Democrats. They got like $1.5 billion and just threw it away and squandered it. They laundered it. The Democrats treated the money that Kamala Harris got the same way they treated the money that went to Ukraine. Squandered and laundered. That's all they do. Launder and squander. It goes to their friends. It goes to their buddies. It goes to themselves, their families, etc. So that's the same thing that happened. And you know what? What do you think? These people going to do something different? The other day, you probably know the hot mic where Trump's talking and they're talking about how much money they made when the market went back up. So what happened? The market crashes, and I've said this over and over. This is what happens. This is the way our financialized economy works, right? What happened in 2008? The market crashed and went down to like 6,000. And what is it, right? So at the value of real estate, of assets, went down to nothing. The people that were rich came in and bought it all at fire sale prices, and then when the value went back up, they made all the money. Now they own the assets. What happened during the COVID, when they did the COVID lockdowns and everything, right? The asset prices went down to nothing. Everything went down to nothing. The people who were rich bought it all up. When it came back up, they were rich. What happened the other day? What was Trump and his people bragging about? Hey, guess what happened? Joe Blow over there made $2.5 billion in it. This guy made. So what happens? Your 401k goes to hell and you lose everything. And they come in and buy up at fireside. So again, what was it? It was a massive transfer of wealth. The little guy who's got some money in the stock market in various funds, those funds go to hell. These guys come in and they buy everything that's gone to hell. And when it goes back up even a little bit, they bought it at fire sale prices. They make billions. One guy here, two guys here, a few billionaires. So we have a country where nobody trusts the electoral system, and it doesn't matter if they trust it, because every 4 years we're going to get some person who's going to run, and every word out of their mouth is going to be a lie, and then they're just going to come in and they're going to be a Zionist puppet, and they're going to look for more war, and then they're going to tell us about what they got to do. We got to bring jobs back. Does anybody believe that Trump's tariffs are going to, you got to be stupid to think they're, I mean, I'm not stupid, I'm sorry, that's not the right word. That's not the right word. It's not stupid. Hopeful. You got to still have some hope, right? Hope and change in 2008. We got neither. And Trump came back in for hope and change. That's what he is. He's a Republican's Obama. He's the hope and change candidate. And you got to believe that he really intends to do things differently, and that the system around him will allow things to happen differently. And then you can have that hope. Just like I did in 2000 and so many other people in 08, we had that hope. So I can't be mad at conservatives who still have that hope. I ain't angry at you. It's your turn. Bad news for you, though. Ultimately, I think we know how this story ends, but some people have to find out. I had to find out. Why shouldn't you have to find out? Unfortunately for me, it was, it took a longer time. We're 3 months in. I think a lot of Republicans hopefully will always already be waking up saying, hey, you told us you were going to cut the deficit and you're adding the deficit. You told us you were going to be the peace candidate and you've already started one war and you're threatening more. What the hell's going on? You told us you were going to address the issue of high prices and you've cut us off from Canada, and all the prices and inflation are going to go through the roof for all eternity. What the hell are you doing? No, it's not what the hell are you doing. It's when you voted for him, this is what you voted for. Same way when the Democrats voted for Biden, that's what they voted for. They didn't vote for a person. They voted for a system, the continuation of the system. So the political system is crumbling. And might I add this? Here's the difference between you and those billionaires that made all of that money. Here's the difference between you and Zelensky and Biden and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi, who's making money off of insider trading. Here's the difference between you and them. You got hope. They don't. They don't have hope. They're getting theirs now. What's going on is this. They're like, look, this thing's falling apart. We got to take everything we can. What do? Before they leave, before they run out and go to the global south or wherever hell they're going to do? What do? When they buy a company, what do they do with that company? They milk it dry, right? I had dealings with this before with a company. So what do? They go in and you got a company X. They buy your company. And then they do the mafia role. Hey, man, this is a good, strong company. Yes, it is. We make widgets. Tell you what, how much credit does this company have? And they say, you kidding me? This company has great credit. We can borrow 150 million. They say, great, let's do it. And you say, whoa, that'll destabilize the company. How will we pay that back? Don't worry about it. They borrow the 150 million and then they split it amongst themselves. They say, we're going to take that for consultant fees. The only reason they bought that company was because it had $150 million in credit. They buy the company, then what do? They lay everybody off, they sell all the assets, they Chapter 11 and walk away. They bought that company. So that's what they do. Well, why is that important? I know you've heard me say that over and over again, because that's what the hell they're doing with the United States. That's what they're doing with us. And that is this. They're liquidating the assets. They're looking at it and they're saying, oh man, we got to add a lot of assets here. First of all, why? They're a national. They don't have a country, right? So this is what they were doing. This is what they've been doing for years. They've been doing they overthrow the country of whatever, Venezuela, Africa, what they come and tell you, oh, Maduro's a dictator, and you poor bastard, you would believe it. The only thing he was a dictator about was he had oil and he wouldn't give it up. They overthrow the country and then they loot the oil, they loot the gold, they loot the natural resources, and they just tell you whatever, in the same way they treat a corporation, they treat a country. And they tell you, Maduro, Putin, he's a communist. Oh, we got to loot his resources. Assad, whoever. They give you a lie so you will support that. And here's the problem for you. You ain't even gonna get none of it. You're going to support it. They're going to use your tax dollars to overthrow Syria. They had this quote dirty war against Syria where they spent billions. It's your money. Your money. They spent billions in your money to overthrow the government of Syria or whatever other government. And then you know what they do? They send Exxon Mobil or Shell or BP in to loot the oil and keep the money. They use your tax money, your money that you have a right to go to your schools, money that you have a right to go to your roads. They take that money, they go in and they overthrow a country, then they bring in Exxon Mobil and Shell and BBC, they loot it, and you don't even get a part of it. You pay for the piracy, the theft, and the robbery, and you don't even get a piece of it. So if you think about it, you're being robbed in the same way that they're robbing that country. They might as well call you a dictator in the same way they're going to call Maduro or whoever a dictator when they want to steal their stuff, because you're getting treated the same way they are. And now, hopefully, some people are waking up to it. So the problem they have is the jig is up. The game is running apart. Why? Because inside the empire, Americans got something out of it. Americans got a so-called good job. Americans got a so-called good retirement and social security and all that stuff. They've looted everything and looted this country to the point where, economically speaking, this country is only a shell of the corporation. It was the U.S. Incorporated, and they've looted this country like they do every other country, every other company that they take over, to the point where when they get finished, there's nothing left of that company, and they've got finished with U.S. Inc. And look around you, my friends, in the United States. Look around you. Who can afford to buy a house, a new car? Why? Because BlackRock bought all the houses and they're renting them back to you. Why? Because the price of cars have run up to the point where you can't afford them, to the point where the only people that make cars that you can afford is China. $12,000, $10,000 nice vehicles, $14,000 hybrids. $10,000 hybrids they make. By the time they got here, you could probably buy them for 13, 14, 15 grand for a nice hybrid. I put it like this: you could probably get nice hybrids in the upper teens to 20s if they allowed Chinese cars here all day, but they won't. They won't, for a number of reasons, because they still got to keep the fraud that American car companies, as long as they can still make a profit, but they can't really, because you can't afford to buy the damn cars. And they're not going to let China come in. Why? Because they've declared war on reality. Here's reality. Let me give you reality. Look, there are trees and plants that live a year. They grow up and then they get big, and then that tree dies and the leaves fall off. You ever have a vegetable garden? You grow the tomato plants, they don't come back, they go up, there's seeds, something else grows. But that's the nature of things, right? You're born, you blossom like a tree, then you shrivel away, and then you die. This is the nature, right? That's the nature of empires. Empire is born, an empire grows and it spreads, and at some point an empire croaks. That's the nature of reality. There's no way around that. There's no empire that's ever lasted forever. The Third Reich, we're going to be a 1,000-year reign. The Third Reich didn't even say it was going to be an empire forever. They said the 1,000-year reign of the Third Reich, some kind of religious craziness, right? Okay. The U.S. comes to power as an empire in 91. And what do they say? It's over. The end of history, right? The end of history. We're going to be an empire forever, ever, 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 right? Although that's like me. You know what that's like? Ted Williams apparently had his head cut off and frozen when he died, because he's like, well, if they ever find a way to bring me back, I hope they can, and then I can live forever. These billionaires trying to figure a way to transfer their consciousness into a machine so they can live forever, not understanding the reality of consciousness. Here's my opinion on consciousness. Consciousness is not a thing that we have. Consciousness is around us, and as human beings, we have the tools like antennas to tap into what's around us. We have the tools. If you look at a tree, that tree doesn't have a color. That tree's brown. No, it's not. It's not brown. It doesn't have a color. It's basically invisible. It's not real. What happens? Light hits off of it and comes back at a particular frequency, and your body interprets that frequency as brown or green, right? Your body interprets that. It doesn't have a color. Reality is that tree is just there. And tree, it's not even a tree. A tree is a word that we use to describe that whatever it is, it's ineffable. There is no words to describe it. We use words as symbols to describe what's there, right? But the reality is we're able, we have the tools, the antennas, the ears and the eyes to tap into consciousness, to tap into reality, what's around us. And when we're dead, that reality is still there, but we can tap into it. So you can't take that antenna and save that antenna and bring that antenna back. That ain't the way it works. But they can't accept the reality, and they're trying to look for a way to live forever. Here's my point. They're trying to do that with the US empire. They just haven't told you. So think about what they're saying. This is the argument really coming from Washington, D.C. A country that is economically $37 trillion in debt. And even when Trump and Vance and his crew know it, and they know that we are within a year or so of that debt getting to a point where we can't do anything with it, right? They know that we're going to be paying $1 trillion a year just to service the debt. And what happens if these tariffs and all that crap screw up the bonds, and the bonds go up 1%, 2%, 3%? Every 1% that our debt increases, that the percentage rate on our debt increases, every 1% that increases is $370 billion. 370 billion increases 1% the service on our debt. So all of this stuff, let's say it increases 3-4%. That means the service on our debt, on top of what it is, has increased. $1 trillion and a half increased. How are you going to do that? And what does Trump do? We're going to do $1 trillion on our military. What does he do? Oh, we're going to lay employee. Basically, what they did was this. They laid off working class people so they could put more money in the military. I had a professor once, and this is what he said. How do you spell commitment? M-O-N-E-Y. If you want to know what somebody's committed to, see where they spend their money. That's the bottom line. If you're committed to fishing, you're going to spend your money on fishing. If you're committed to something else, that's where your money goes. So what are they committed to? They're committed to militarism. They're committed to war. And what are they doing right now? What is the Trump team doing right now? Number one, he can't get out of the war with Russia. There ain't no way out, my friend. Not the direction that we're going. We can't, we've lost a war. There's no way to lose a war and negotiate like you won. That's what they want to do. They want to lose the war and negotiate like they won. Why? Why is that? As part of this world war, this war on reality. It's a world war that we're in. But it's the U.S. empire declaring war on everything else around them, mainly on the reality that no empire lasts forever. They're saying, look, this empire can't end. We can't afford it to end. We don't know what's going to happen if it's going to end. We plan for it to be forever. And reality said, nah, it ain't going to be forever. They said, well, we'll fight reality then. Doggone you, reality. Who do you think you are? But you've got an empire that's economically unstable. It's broke, worse than broke. You got an empire that's politically unstable. The people don't trust the institutions anymore. Think about it. Why are you watching me? Some people right now are watching Jimmy Dore. He's great. Why are you watching some idiot sitting in a friggin' pickup truck in a parking lot? Why? You trust me more than you trust Anderson Cooper, whose mother was Gloria Vanderbilt, on CNN. More than you trust General Jack Keane and the former CIA chiefs and former NSA chiefs that they're dragging on MSNBC and Fox every day. The institution of the media has collapsed. The media, that's an institution. That institution, one of the pillars of democracy, has thoroughly collapsed. The reason it's collapsed is people don't have trust in it. If people don't trust the media, you don't have a media. We don't have a media. Everybody knows it's not a media. It was an integral part of the empire. It was the propaganda arm of the empire. That's all the media was, and it has collapsed. Trust in the media has thoroughly collapsed. It's over. Okay, what about the other institutions? Let's see, how's things going with the colleges? Everybody now knows that these colleges get hundreds of millions of dollars from the government, and when the government says people are not allowed to protest, colleges got to go along with them. And they'll come in and they'll beat the hell out of whoever they need to beat out of, students protesting. They'll do whatever they need to do. Everybody, so there's no trust in the institution of education. gone. And not to mention, people can't afford it anyway. So the institution of education is not and what are you going to do? Come out with a degree in gender studies? That's what the kind of stuff they got now. Gender studies. People come out and they're like, yeah, this ain't working so well. Trust me, an economics degree in the United States, I don't know, but whatever they've been teaching Janet Yellen and these schlumps that Trump has, that's decided that declaring an economic war on the entire world is going to work, whatever they've been teaching them, I don't want to learn that. Okay. But here's my point. So we have a completely unstable country. And we have a ruling elite that what are they doing? They're looting their own country. They're doing the same thing in their country that they're doing to Ukraine. Think about it. They're like, we need to get out of Ukraine, which we do. So what did they do? They took Ukraine, they set it up as an entity to attack Russia. It was nothing more than that. We all know that, right? And now that it ain't working, they're going to loot it. They're like, oh shit, it didn't work. Well, this thing might not work. What can we get out of it? This is a Ukraine Incorporated. This is a corporation that when they overthrew the government, what did they do? That was a hostile overthrow of a corporation. Everything to them is a corporation. They overthrew the corporation of Ukraine. Then what did they do? They went in there and they made every dime they could out of Ukraine. They sold all kinds of weapons. BlackRock came in, bought up everything. The Ukraine has been thoroughly bought up by the new neoliberal countries. They're thinking about how they can make money in the rebuild. They're talking about that. Who's going to pay for the rebuild? I know. We'll take the Russian money to rebuild it. Who do you think they're going to pay to rebuild it? The neoliberals will be fighting over the contracts to rebuild it because they made money blowing it up and they want to make money building it back up. Realistically, that's where they are. So my point being this. So now they're fighting over the bones of Ukraine. Ukraine Incorporated has served the purpose and they want to make money out of it. But the other problem is this. They've lost that war. And how, if they admit that they've lost that war, how do they continue the rest of their wars if they've lost one? So they got to find a way out without losing. And what do you have? You got an internal fighting. You got Trump and Vance representing the people that just say, let's get out and move on to other wars. Let's get out of this when we lost it. Let's just say we didn't lose it. Let's just say Biden screwed up and get the hell out and off we'll go to other wars. You got that crew, right? Meanwhile, you got the people who staked everything in this war, who said we're going to go in, we're right, and we got to win it. If you get out of the war, they stand to lose everything. So they're like, holy crap, our political viability. We may not be viable politically anymore. We may be in deep and serious trouble and not get any political respect in Washington. We got to keep this thing going. And their plan, of course, is, I don't know if you know it. Here's the plan. They'll tell you. The Europeans said we want to build a mighty army by 2030. We expect war with Russia by 2030, right? So their brilliant plan in Europe, and the brilliant plan of the neocons is this. Pretty simple. Keep this war going till 2030, so Europe can build a mighty army, and then Europe can join in the army, and then boom, they can all go fight, and they got World War III, and they can fight Russia. That's their plan, right? It ain't much of a plan, but that's their plan. The problem they got in this part of the war on reality, because remember, the U.S. sees Europe as a puppet, but as a puppet, which it is, but they got puppet leaders that they put in power. But by the same token, the Trumpian wing see them as a meal. And they're like, yeah, we'll eat them the same way we'll eat everybody. They see the Trump wing of the ruling elite. They are corporate raiders. And the corporate raider sees everything as a corporation to be raided. And they're looking at Europe. They see the whole world as a corp. That was just part of the tariffs. The whole world is a corporation for us to raid. And they looked at EU Incorporated and they said, oh my God, we can go there and take everything they got too. And now they're like, how can we get the Nord Stream? Because then we can make money off of Europe and Russia and Ukraine. Everybody will make money. All they're thinking is how to do their corporate raiding. And the EU Incorporated, they want to raid. And the Ukraine, they're like, oh my God, how can we do that? Oh, I got an idea. Because why are they thinking that? Because this is the way they feel. Well, hell, when the Democrats had Ukraine, Hunter Biden went in and got rich. Pelosi's kids got rich. all these other people, Amos Hochstein, all of the Democrats, people and their friends went in and got rich off Ukraine. Now we got it. It's our turn to get rich. They went in and did a corporate raid on Ukraine and made their money under Biden. Damn it, we got Ukraine. It's our turn. And you know what? They made all the money right now that Ukraine has. Damn it, Ukraine doesn't have anything to offer. So here's what we're going to do. What's the definition of debt in economics? The definition of debt is simple. It's a claim on future earnings. So again, they want to do the same thing to Ukraine that they're doing to us. You start off by taking every stinking dime they got, right? They bought the houses up. We got to rent from them here. They buy the Bill Gates is buying the farmland up, and they tell you China's buying the farmland up. Bill Gates is buying the damn farmland up. I'd rather China own the farmland than Bill Gates. I'm gonna tell you that right now, because they don't do HMO, they don't do GMOs at least, right? But here's my point: they figured out how to feed 1.5 billion people. Bill Gates wants to starve us all to death and poke us like pin cushions. I'd be honest with you. I'd take China owning the farmland over Bill Gates any day of the week. But I will continue. You ain't got to agree with it. That's just me. If that's my choice. But so now Trump and his team just look at Ukraine, Inc. Everything is Inc. EU, Inc. America, Inc. Trump, Inc. Ukraine, Inc. And they're like, you made all that damn money off Ukraine. And there's nothing left today. I know. And think about this. Why did they really want to end the war? Because according to the Trumpian way, this is why Trump wants and his crew really want to end the war. They're trying to sign a deal, and the deal would give them Ukraine's money after the war, right? All of your money comes back to here after the war, right? We're all going to get rich on Ukraine after the war. When it's over, if you make money selling wheat, if you make money selling rare earth, selling whatever the hell you're selling, and you got stuff to sell, whatever you sell, your ports, you name it, we're going to get your profits. They're corporate raiders. They're going to raid Ukraine. The Biden team raided Ukraine for all the money they had. Now there's nothing left. So the Trump team say, we raided America for everything, and then we put everybody in debt. We went out and borrowed every dime we could. We can't borrow anymore. We gave everybody credit cards. You borrow, and everybody's up to their ears in debt. Every state, every corporation, everything's up to their ears in debt. There ain't nothing left here, so they've sucked us dry. So they got to move on. What are they going to do with Ukraine? Well, everybody, just like when Americans, what did they do when Americans could no longer afford to live? They gave everybody credit cards, easy credit. What they do when Americans still couldn't afford to live? They turn the interest rates down to zero, so to entice you to borrow even more. So everybody go out and buy that car you can't afford, buy that boat, buy that house you can't afford. We don't care if you take it back later, it doesn't matter. We're going to give you loans. And what is a loan? A claim on future earnings. What are they doing with Ukraine? They're trying to levy a claim on Ukraine's future earnings. That's the deal they're trying to get Zelensky to sign. However much you make, for as long as you make it, goes to us. Claim on future earnings. The same thing they're doing to us. And that's what the Europeans, in particular Starmer's, resisting, because Starmer's trying to get that deal with Ukraine. He's trying to get the claim on Ukraine's future earnings. So now that they're looking in Ukraine, things ain't working out for Ukraine, the least they can walk away with is a claim on all of Ukraine's future earnings. But meanwhile, there's a battle, because the Trump team that wants to do that, the same Trump team that wants to sign that for Ukraine and say, we want to claim on your future earnings after the war ends. Well, hell, you got to end the war to do that, don't you? The only way that I can start earning that money that starts after the war is over is I got to end the war. So what does Trump wants to do? Why does he keep saying, sign this, Zelensky, sign it. You got to sign this. Please sign it. Right? And if you notice, what has he done? We're not going to work hard to end the war until you sign this deal that says when the war's over, you give us every damn thing you got for all eternity. Put those two things together. After the people are like, well, the Trump team, they seem like they're holding off. They're in no rush to end this war. No, they ain't till they get that damn thing signed. Hey, man. So if I sign this, then I got to give you everything that I make for all eternity. Correct. Until you decide I don't have to do it anymore. Correct, which will be never. When does that start? As soon as the war is over. So if I sign this, what are you going to do? I'm in the damn war as soon as you sign it. What about beforehand? I'll just talk to the Russians about embassies, proper possible deals in Greenland that'll never happen, alliances that'll never happen. I'm talking about all the bull crap to Russians all day long. I'm just marking time till I get you, sucker, to sign this deal that says that once the war is over, I get every stinking dime you make for all eternity. Sorry about that. And as soon as you sign that deal, I'm gonna call the Russians and say, "What the hell do you want?" Well, we want this. This is it. You got it. And as soon as the um what do you call it? As soon as the Europeans say, "No, we're not going along with that deal. We want the war to keep going." There's a couple options here. One of them is they can just go to the Europeans and say, "We'll put 90 million% tariffs on you unless you do what we tell you to do," and the Europeans will have to do it. The other option is that they say, "Well, okay, look, chill out. We're going to arm the hell out of you. By the way, you're buying them all from us until 2030, and then we'll help you attack Russia. First, we got to go deal with China, Iran in the Middle East. We got to go war. We got a war there, or some kind of way we got to bring Iran to heel there because we're at war with the entire world right now. Then we're going over to China. I don't know what the hell we're going to do. The United States, but think about this. They've got to stop the rise of China. Stop the rise of China. You're going to stop the rise of the sun also. You're going to stop the moon from going down. You're going to stop the tides from coming in. That's what they're trying to do. Your empire is unstable politically. Your empire is unstable culturally. People don't even know how many genders there are anymore in this country. We used to have answers to questions like that, right? Yeah, now we're arguing over the number of genders. Think about it. It's not that there's more than one gender or there's less than 2 genders or 50 genders. It's not that. It's that at a time when we are being economically disassembled by the ruling elite, we're arguing over the number of genders. And they're just sitting back there saying, "Do me a favor, guys. You hang out over there and argue about the number of genders, and we'll be here stealing every friggin' dime you got. Have fun, you poor bastards." That's what's happening. Meanwhile, we'll be over here trying to get Ukraine incorporated to sign this deal and give us everything they got for all eternity. The second the war ends, and then that's when we're ending the war. And we got to tell the Europeans, look, all this business about free school and healthcare and all that stuff has to come to a screeching halt. You really need to go completely arm yourself to fight Russia, because the plan is to go over here and destabilize China, economically ruin China. And once we ruin China, and then some miracle way, I'm not sure how, we're going to install a compliant puppet government who will be neoliberal and give us everything we want, and then we'll be in charge in China, and then we'll come back and get Russia. What do you think? Let me ask you this. You think the Russians can't figure that out? You think the Russians can't figure out that it's not that you suddenly decided to be the nice guy, it's that you lost the war with Russia and you want to try to find a way to mitigate that loss so you can go after China, and then you can take China out, and then you can come back to Russia and you can stop the sun from rising. You can stop, for the first time ever, an empire that is collapsing. For the first time in history, every empire that has collapsed. But not this time. This time you're going to stop this empire from collapsing. Other powers, great powers around the world, will not rise. You will stop them from rising. Somehow, who knows how? But you don't have a plan. If you think about it, they're taking China out. They don't really have a plan. It's like, let's try to destabilize things on China's border. Okay, let's say you could destabilize things on China's border. And we'll weaponize the Philippines and Japan and South Korea. Right now, that ain't going so well as far as South Korea, because South Korea is like pissed at you, and Japan is too. Think about this too. Part of this, their devious and diabolical plot to rule the world and to change reality. So for the first time in the history of the world, a crumbling empire doesn't crumble. You put tariffs on everybody. At the same time, you're saying to South Korea and Japan, look, we've got to weaponize you just like we did Ukraine, so we can drag you into a war against China, and your countries will be smashed to bits. Right? We're bringing you, you'll be ground zero. We'll get your country smashed to bits. Okay? That's the plan. But first, we're going to put massive tariffs around you, on you, because you've been taking advantage of us. The whole world, we're just victims of the world. There's nothing wrong with neoliberal capitalism. It works fine. It's perfect. It should be working wonderful. It has nothing to do with the decisions that we've made to deindustrialize. It has nothing to do with the financialization of this country. Completely, our economic disaster is with $37 trillion in debt. Not because we actually decided to spend more money than we have by $37 trillion. Absolutely not. It's not nothing to do with it. We're $37 trillion in debt because the whole world took advantage of us. Because the economic infrastructure and system that we set up, it no longer works for us because everybody else is taking advantage of us, right? Guess what? Now, even some of our so-called proxies that we're setting up are going to be scratching their heads saying, why are we being proxies for these people? They hate us. They're taking advantage of us. Thank God for Trump. Be honest with you, Trump may save us all in that he may convince some of these other countries not to be proxies for him. And so that our war on reality, our war on the reality that every empire that's ever risen has fallen, our war on that truth will fall flat in a way that's easier rather than more difficult, and that's not as cataclysmic and calamitous as it could potentially be. And think about this. The whole argument about Trump. You know what? Trump, if you look at people are like, oh, he brought in people, these crazy Israel firsters and super Zionists, and he brought in these people to have a battle, to have some kind of a cabinet of dissension and what have you. Or he brought in people that he sees the world the same way he does. Pete Hegseth, a simpleton. Hegseth is a simpleton. He is no intellectual giant. One could look at Hegseth and look at Trump and say neither of these guys are intellectual giants. Neither of these guys are philosophers. They're not deep thinkers by any stretch of the imagination. It's good guys versus the bad guys. It's archetypes, villains versus heroes, all the way down with these guys. So one could argue with Hegseth, one could argue that from the perspective of deep thinking, he's maybe the closest you get to Trump. He's very similar to Trump. Look at me, I'm Mr. Tough Guy. These guys ain't deep thinkers, right? Jeffrey Sachs, Richard Wolff, these guys, Michael, these guys are deep thinkers. The people in Trump's, yeah, right? So bottom line is this. The last thing I'll say is about this is that the final battle going on here is within the power structure of the empire, within the power of the empire, right? Right now, and think about this. You've got I don't know, whatever, a football team, and you're going to play another team that's really, really good. And your players are on the bus fighting each other, punching each other, undermining each other on the way over, stealing each other's helmets, putting hot sauce in each other's foot cleats because they hate each other. And they're fighting and they can't stand each other. They're trying to undermine each other. The coaching staff, they don't get along. The coaching staff is trying to undermine each other. It's just a disaster, right? How you think you're going to do in that game? You think you're going to win? No, you got an unstable team. The locker room, the coach has lost the locker room. All the players are talking, whispering to each other. That coach is an idiot. What a jerk. He doesn't know anything. How about these plays that he calls? They're the worst. And the players hate him. And some players hate him and some don't. And the players are divided into two groups: the people that hate the coach, the people that love the coach. Right? That's the U.S. government. There are people in the deep state who are at war with Trump over Russia, who are happy with what he's doing over maybe Iran, but he's not going far enough or war enough, quick enough over here. But over here, they're happy with him. Excuse me for yawning. So within the context of the ruling elite right now, we've got a Cold War going on. So some may argue not all that hot, but a hot war, Cold War. So as this country, as they sell this country off, right? Crash the economy, drive the value the assets down so they can buy them for pennies on the dollar, right? So they got to do that because that's who they are. You know what I mean? Birds got to fly, fish got to fry, as they say, right? But birds got to fly, fish got to swim, right? And if you're a corporate raider, the U.S. Inc., it's here's an economy. What are you going to do? You're gonna raid it. You're gonna drive everything down, and you're gonna buy everything at pennies on the dollar. And Trump's gonna brag, "Hey, we made $1 billion, $millions. Good job, guys. Everybody's making big money." When your 401k ain't showing that, your Bitcoin that you bought at the wrong time ain't show all the things that you bought. Your investments look like hell. They made a fortune. They extracted your money and put it in their pockets, and they're laughing because they thought it was didn't know it was a hot mic. So they got to do that. At the same time, we got to contain China. Why? Is it because they want the United States to be the power? They don't have a country. They're a national. They just want to be in charge of everything. The Black Rocks and the Apollos and these are the Vanguards, all of these people, they want to run everything. And they can't have China saying, nah, we control our corporations and we're not going to let our control corporations do whatever they want. Think about it. Here's the difference. In Russia and China, the government is more powerful than the corporations. The government is over the corporations, more powerful than the corporations in countries like Russia and China. There are countries where the government is more powerful than the corporations. In the United States and the EU, the corporations are more powerful than the government. And you've got a ruling elite there who own all the corporations and stuff like that. And so you don't really have a government. You have a clandestine ruling elite that put their puppets in and do what the hell they want to do. And they don't necessarily have a country anymore. They're a national. So do they care about the U.S.? The U.S. can fall and go to hell, and they can still run the world from London and Wall Street. So this country can devolve into the dawn of the dead looking dystopian disaster, and they can still run everything. So you don't have to look good. Your material day-to-day life is not relative as to whether or not they still see the empire as holding on to power. They can say, look around, the people are starving. We don't really care. The people are struggling. We don't really care. They'll do what they're told or else. Damn, if they say something about Zionism, we'll lock their asses up or throw them out of the country and keep them their mouths shut then, right? So as the material reality that you live in deteriorates, they don't care. In fact, if they got to start a war and throw you and your kids in it, who cares? Who cares? Not them. They're just raiding U.S. Inc. anyway. They're as best they can. If they can drive it down again, drive the prices down, buy everything again, and then do that over and over and over, they'll do it as many times as they can get away with and make a fortune. Meanwhile, Wall Street, City of London, etc., these few little ruling elite in the West, okay, we bought China down. We got control of Russia's natural resources. We run the world. That's all they want to do. And right now they're at war with a reality that says there are rising powers and the traditional empire is dying. They don't even want to, because they're a national, they don't recognize the U.S. empire, as it were, as an imperial power in the traditional sense. Right, as the government having the Senate and all that stuff, like in Rome, having power and decision. No, they see their ruling elite people as simply having a bunch of puppets out there as front men and utilizing the military, utilizing the money of the U.S. to do things they need to do around the world and to maintain their control of the world economic system and the world economic infrastructure to change it as they will. That's the reality. Let me look now and see. I don't see. Nope. Not the one. Nobody in new I don't see. Nope, nobody today with super chats, which is fine. If there's well, here's the thing. Somebody said, okay. Somebody said, wait a minute, I'm not buying it. That's fine. You don't have to buy it. I'm just running off at the mouth. This is the way I see things. So yeah, we will see. Now, someone said, no infrastructure investment. Why bother when pop will be reduced by 85 to 90% by 2030? Think about this. Of course, they're not going to put money in infrastructure. Think about this. When did they do all this infrastructure? Right after what did they say? It was like during the a lot of it was done during like the 30s, 40s, 50s. But what was going on there? They were building a lot of factories. And the people who owned the factories needed the infrastructure. See, there was factories, right? And the owners of the factories, the billionaires, the ruling elite said, we got factories. Uh-oh, we need a better electrical system, grid system. So your money was used to update the electrical grid. Oh, we need better highways. Your money, the taxpayer, your money was used to upgrade the highways, right? So they used, we need better employees in these factories. We need, at least they need, got to have a high school education. So what did they do? They upgraded the educational infrastructure. They put money in the infrastructures because they needed ports to move the goods that were being made here. They needed trains to move the goods. They needed highways to move the goods. They needed educated people to move the goods. So they made a college was affordable, regular school, traditional school was available. There were buses. All this was set. Why? Was it for us? No, it wasn't. They only spent the money and built infrastructure because the ruling elite needed it to move their products and to run their factories. Once all of the factories left and the ruling elite didn't need infrastructure, they didn't put a dime in infrastructure since. And nor will they. Our roads, drive down some of our roads, they're hell. Why? Because you got to use the roads. They don't need them to move product because we don't make product anymore. The service economy, right? You don't need it for Netflix or Hulu. It's all the kind of crap we sell. You don't need good roads and all this infrastructure for that. So no, they're not putting any money in infrastructure because they didn't build it for us in the first place. They built it for the ruling elite that owned a bunch of factories so their factories would run. That's the only reason they did it. So we don't get infrastructure built for us. Nothing's done for us. Let's see. Doing upcoming, let's see. Doing upcoming public expense with Ritter, etc. He mentioned something about some upcoming events. Look, I love doing public speaking events. Most of the time when I'm asked, I do them. I like Scott Ritter. So if Ritter asks me, or when people ask me if there's any way I can do public speaking events, when I'm asked, I do it. I love Caleb Maupin, and he'll ask me sometimes. Anything else we got? There we go. I think that's it. Here we go. The infrastructure they fund is massive data centers for the military industrial. Exactly. And for you. Look, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. They're going to a UBI with us. They're going to a universal basic income. See this little sucker right here? This is a cell phone. It's a Galaxy S something or other. I don't know what the hell it is. It's just a Galaxy cell phone, right? But guess what? When you can't work anywhere because the economy has collapsed and they know that you're fit for revolution, they will then say the Federal Reserve is going to create a digital currency, and you download an app. Of course, cell phones will be too expensive. You can't buy one, so the government will issue you a cell phone, which will track everything you do wherever you do, just like the one you got now. And then what happens? Every month that app will get, let's just say $4,000. I wrote this on one of my last articles. Let's just say this app that every month gives you $4,000 digital in your app. You got 4,000. Isn't that great? Every month you get $4,000 free from the government. Why? Because there's no damn jobs and there's nowhere for you to work and there's no factories, there's no nothing. And if they don't do it, you're going to revolt and cut their damn heads off. And then everybody's like, yay, always knew that a UBI, universal basic income would get, hooray. Yeah, it means that the country can no longer, the economic system you live in can no longer create viable jobs for people to work and feed their families. And now, remember when they told us this? Welfare, we can't have welfare because people on welfare, they won't be incentivized to work. Well, guess what? That's what it's going to be. Everybody gets money because the system, other than that, you'll kill them. You'll cut their heads off. So they'll give you universal basic income. But let's just say you should screw up and, I don't know, go to a protest against Zionism. Oh. Sorry about your universal basic income. It has been reduced by 25% this month. And might I add, the government-owned driverless AI taxis that you use everywhere because nobody can afford a car. You went to a protest against Zionism. Oh, sorry. This app doesn't work for those cars. You'll have to walk everywhere or get somebody else to take you or get somebody else to use their app because when you go to a protest against Zionism, the app won't let you travel anymore. You can't go within, or if it does, you can't go within it further than X amount of miles, 15 miles, 5 miles, 15 minutes from your home. Oh, but you know how you can make money? If you know somebody that did go to a protest against Zionism and you turn them in, we'll give you an extra 250 credits, 500 credits, whatever they give you, the CBC. If you turn somebody in, a family member, a friend that you know, that what if they posted something? If you turn in their post, you can get money there, but don't you post the wrong thing. Because if you post the wrong thing, I'm sorry, 10% decrease. So you'll be like, but if your media accounts are clear for the entire month and you don't post anything bad, anything the government doesn't want you, you get a 10% increase. So you better do self-police your post. And if somebody put something on you, a comment on your social media, and that comment, I don't know, is something the government wouldn't like, you immediately turn it in 5%. See what I mean? That's the only option is number one, universal basic income, because the system doesn't work and they don't want you to go full revolution. Number two, they can then use that to manipulate the hell out of you. Because right now, all we got is a war on reality. And last time I checked, you ever heard the term reality asserts itself? Everybody that has a war on reality always loses. Thank you very much, everybody. Let me look one more time. Are there any? Oh, yeah, of course, social credit score. You got it. All right. Let me look at Rockfin and see, did somebody there, maybe just possibly, somebody there might have said something or made a tip. Give me a second here. Hopefully I'm still on. Checking Rockfin. I'm checking Rockfin. There we go. It's on. Nope, I don't see. Nope, no tips there. And we will check for Rumble Rants. We're gonna check for the Rumble Rants. It's kind of weird being in a car and kind of doing your it's kind of weird doing this show from a car. All right, I'm looking for Rumble Rants. All right. Nope, no Rumble Rants. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate that. I'm out of here. I'm tired. And I will be back every day while I'm gone, which is till next Sunday. I'll be doing at least one video a day. So share this on all your social media platforms if you can. If you can afford it, make sure you follow me everywhere, Rumble, Rockfin, all that kind of stuff. If you could afford it, buy me a coffee or Patreon or whatever you can, Cash App, you name it. If not, don't worry about it. Just share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.